Hello, and welcome to Back to the Science. I'm Dr. Susan Oliver, and I'm a scientist. And this is Cindy Oliver, and she's a dog. And by the way, we live in Australia, but that's a story for another video. Those of you who are regular watchers of our channel may have noticed that the last video that I uploaded disappeared after about an hour. And if you happen to have a link and clicked on it, you were told that it had been removed because it violated community standards. And if you've been a regular viewer for a while, you'd know that this isn't the first time this has happened. In fact, it has happened at least 10 times. Sometimes the videos have been put back by YouTube within a few hours, sometimes within a few days or weeks. And for one video, it took over a year. And all the videos were removed for the same reason. YouTube deemed them to violate their medical misinformation policy. In every case, they made a mistake and subsequently apologised, which I appreciate. But contrast this to larger YouTubers like, for instance, Dr. John Campbell, who don't even have their videos full of misinformation removed in the first place. And it's clear that YouTube's misinformation policy, whilst well-meaning, is contributing to the spread of misinformation on their platform. They allow medical misinformation to remain whilst removing content debunking that misinformation. This not only allows the misinformation to go unchallenged, but also allows anti-vaxxers to claim that it can't be misinformation because YouTube hasn't removed it, which inadvertently makes the misinformation seem even more credible. In this video, we'll be looking at how their policies allow this to happen. So let's have a look at their medical misinformation policy. YouTube doesn't allow content that poses a serious risk of egregious harm by spreading medical misinformation that contradicts local health authorities or the World Health Organization's guidance about specific medical conditions and substances. This policy includes the following categories: prevention misinformation, treatment misinformation, denial misinformation. What do they mean by these? Prevention misinformation. We do not allow content that promotes information that contradicts health authority guidance on the prevention or transmission of specific health conditions or on the safety, efficacy, or ingredients of currently approved and administered vaccines. Treatment misinformation. We do not allow content that promotes information that contradicts health authority guidance on treatments for specific health conditions, including promotion of specific harmful substances or practices that have not been approved by local health authorities or the World Health Organization as safe or effective, or that have been confirmed to cause severe harm. Denial misinformation. We do not allow content that denies the existence of specific health conditions. Now, if any anti-vaxxers are listening, they are probably screaming at the screen about censorship and freedom of speech. Get over yourselves. It's YouTube's platform, so they get to decide what content they show, just like a lot of places have dress codes. Sometimes it could be as simple as requiring you to wear a shirt, but sometimes it could be a specific type of shirt, like one with a collar. And YouTube doesn't just have policies about medical misinformation. They also have policies about nudity and sexual content, violence, hate speech, firearms, etc. If you don't agree with the policies, you don't have to watch YouTube videos. It's as simple as that. And if you can't go with people moving their arms when they talk, you don't have to watch my videos. And there is a very good reason for YouTube to have these policies beyond just being a good corporate citizen. YouTube makes most of its money from advertising, and most advertisers don't want to be associated with a platform that spreads dangerous misinformation or allows hate speech, as Elon Musk is now learning. Now, if you're a regular watcher of my videos and have at least a basic understanding of medical science, you would know that my videos don't spread medical misinformation. So, why have I had so many videos removed? It's estimated that over 500 hours of videos are uploaded to YouTube every minute, which means videos are checked using artificial intelligence and not by people. And this is a major problem if you're a channel owner that debunks medical misinformation, because you have to show the medical information that you are debunking before you debunk it. And this will often trigger the AI. Now, YouTube recognizes that they can make mistakes. So they have an appeal system. And when you lodge your appeal, you are given 800 characters to explain why your video isn't misinformation, which isn't a lot when they don't actually tell you which bit of the video they think is misinformation. But it's better than nothing. Anyway, I lodged an appeal when my last video was removed, and less than 2 minutes later, I received the following email. Hi, back to the science. We have reviewed your appeal for the following video. New syndrome, post Dr. Campbell anxiety and depression. We have reviewed your content carefully and confirmed that it violates our medical misinformation policy. We know that this is probably disappointing news, but it's our job to make sure that YouTube is a safe place for all. How this impacts your content. We won't be putting your content back up on YouTube. If your appeal was for a warning, you will not be given another warning in the future. If your appeal was for a strike, this strike will remain on your channel. You can find more information about warnings and strikes in the YouTube Help Centre. Thanks, the YouTube team. Now, given that my video was over 26 minutes long and my appeal was rejected in under 2 minutes, it's pretty clear that when they said they had reviewed my content carefully, they were lying. And whoever was assigned to review it was either being malicious or lazy. Now, this is not my first rodeo. I have had appeals rejected before, and after the second time it happened, I was fortunate to discover that YouTube had a Twitter team who were willing to help out. So I reached out to them again, and after a few days, my video was reinstated and I received an apology for their mistake. Some of you may be thinking, what's the big deal then, given that my video has been reinstated? But there are a few issues. Firstly, not everyone is on the platform formerly known as Twitter, and even if they are, they may not know that they have the option of contacting the team there to get it sorted. I didn't know about it until a year after my first appeal was rejected. This means that a lot of debunking videos are never reinstated, and a lot of channels choose not to bother making any more of them. The second problem is when videos are reinstated after being removed, they never seem to achieve many views. And I'm guessing this is possibly a flaw with the algorithm, assuming that it is an unpopular video and therefore not offering it up to anyone, because the algorithm isn't taking into account that no one could view it for most of the time it was uploaded. But that's just my guess. I've got no idea really. But if you look at this screenshot here, the grey down arrow next to the number of views means that the views are lower than average, whereas the green tick next to the impression click-through rate means that that is actually above average, which normally if you're getting a good click-through rate, they'll keep showing it to more and more people, but not happening with my video. Oh, and by the way, the YouTube policies also apply to comments, which is why a lot of comments disappear on my channel and other channels. A number of trolls have accused me of deleting any comments that don't agree with my view, but I actually rarely do this. I'm quite happy for anti-vaxxers to demonstrate their stupidity to everyone. However, I will delete any comments that are homophobic, transphobic, racist, etc. And if you have a problem with that, you're an asshole. So I don't care what you think. Unfortunately, the comment moderation is done almost exclusively by AI. So they make a lot of mistakes and remove a lot of comments that don't contain misinformation, whilst leaving up a lot of comments that do. I did once contact YouTube about this, and one of my viewers who knows who he is was very helpful in collating a number of examples of his shadow ban comments for them so that they could fix it But after several months of regular updates letting me know that they were continuing to work on it, they let me know that it was going to take a lot longer than they thought, and I haven't heard anything since. So what can you do? Now, I mentioned that my videos do contain some misinformation because I have to show the misinformation that I am debunking, and YouTube policies allow this. Well, it just so happens that the misinformation in my last video came from a video by Dr. John Campbell, which is entitled New Syndrome. And at the time I took this screenshot, it had 1.8 million views and hadn't been removed. So, why did YouTube AI remove my content but not John's? Well, I don't know for sure, but it could be that because John has a large channel that makes YouTube lots of money, he is exempt from automatic AI reviews and instead always gets a human review. But why are the humans allowing John to publish videos that contain medical misinformation? Well, because there are loopholes in the medical misinformation policy that allow you to publish medical misinformation. And John knows how to exploit these loopholes. And I'll just read them out to you. Educational, documentary, scientific, or artistic content. We may allow content that violates the misinformation policies noted on this page if that content includes additional context in the video, audio, title, or description. This is not a pass to promote misinformation. Additional context may include countervailing views from local health authorities or medical experts. We may also make exceptions if the purpose of the content is to condemn, dispute, or satirise misinformation that violates our policies. We may also make exceptions for content discussing the results of a specific medical study or showing an open public forum, like a protest or public hearing, provided the content does not aim to promote misinformation that violates our policies. YouTube also believes people should be able to share their own experiences, including personal experiences with vaccinations, for example. This means we may make exemptions for content in which creators describe first-hand experiences from themselves or their family. And at the same time, we recognise there is a difference between sharing personal experiences and promoting misinformation. To address this balance, we will still remove content or channels if they include other policy violations or demonstrate a pattern of promoting medical misinformation. Now, obviously, the bit about showing misinformation to condemn, dispute, or satirise that misinformation is what I do. And a few years ago, John did this too, but now he uses this loophole as well as others to spread misinformation. Now, one of his favourite tricks is to show misinformation that was presented in Parliament while he nods along in agreement.
This speech does not have that many numbers because most of the important numbers are being kept hidden. Other data has been oddly presented in a distorted way, and concerned people seeking to highlight important findings and ask questions have found themselves inexplicably under attack. Before debating excess deaths,
he can do this because one of the loopholes allows showing a public hearing, provided the content does not aim to promote misinformation that violates YouTube's policies. And he conforms to the second bit by also showing the rebuttal to the misinformation. But have a look at what he does while the rebuttal is happening.
Can I start by acknowledging that he is correct? We have seen an increase in excess deaths in the last year. However, his analysis is something I will disagree with, because the causes that he refers to are simply do not bear to the statistics that we have. There have been a combination of factors contributing to the increase in excess deaths, including in the last year high flu prevalence, the ongoing challenges of COVID-19. We had the strep A outbreak, and conditions such as heart disease, which he touched on, diabetes and cancer, because we had virtually a lockdown of routine health services over a 2-year period, many of those are now coming forward with increased morbidity and mortality as a result of that. And starting with winter flu, the number of positive tests last year peaked at 31.8%, the highest seen in the last 6 years. And interim analysis from the UK HSA indicated the number of deaths in England associated with flu was far higher than pre-pandemic levels. So excess deaths due to flu last winter is sadly part of the answer. And he touched on the independent body of the ONS. Well, their figures show that the leading cause of death in England is still dementia, which accounts for about 10% of all deaths. But they do also look at the cause of excess deaths. And if you look at the figures as of June this year, the top 3 causes of excess deaths are respiratory illnesses, dementia, and ischemic heart disease, which is often caused by an increase in cholesterol, smoking, not having a blood pressure check. So there's a number of reasons, and they are often chronic conditions that people have had for years, decades in fact, some people, and are not acute illnesses.
And just in case it's not clear to you what John is doing, here's a video of him explaining his tactics.
I do a lot through intimation, giving the camera funny looks, and
yeah,
people know what I mean,
and you get away with it.
Yeah, and of course Vladimir Putin has nothing to do with that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or of course, Merck doesn't have any interest that
No.
ivermectin at this point. Right?
They've got. I mean, they've got two antivirals coming out this year, but they don't care. Yeah.
And that was me giving you a funny look in case you missed it. Anyway, as John explains, it's clear to his audience that he is spreading misinformation, even though it's not clear to the YouTube fact checkers. Another loophole that John likes to exploit is the loophole that allows exceptions for content discussing the results of a specific medical study. Because you can publish any old bollocks nowadays and claim it is a medical study. In fact, John can just say that he is presenting a study and YouTube's fact checkers will believe him like he does here.
This one is for the whole population of England. Annus Cerebrus, this is a horrible year. This is June 2022 to May 2023. Now, we've got deaths from all causes in England. So 490,000 people actually died in England. And if no one had been vaccinated, then it should have been 334 based on this data. Now, what the author has done here is he's taken the death rate in people that weren't vaccinated and said, well, if this accurately represents the whole population, which it probably does because there's 1 million or 2 in each cohort, in each age group, the death rate in the people that are unvaccinated, if that applied to the whole population, what would the difference be? So the death rates in the unvaccinated were taken as the normal, and then we're comparing the deaths in the vaccinated and the whole population in comparison. It's really quite a clever way to look at this. So here we see the red is the actual deaths, and if the death rate in the whole population was the same as the death rate in the unvaccinated population, we would have got the green figure.
He's not presenting a study here. He's presenting information from a blog post of an idiot who doesn't understand how to analyse data. The author claims that if there had been no vaccinations, the number of deaths in England would have been only 334,672 over a 1-year period. It's easy to see that this information is bollocks because in 2019, before COVID or COVID vaccines, there were 496,370 total deaths in England. But despite this being obvious misinformation and many people reporting it, YouTube didn't remove this video because it satisfied one of their loopholes. Funnily enough, John ended up removing it himself after he was contacted by the BBC and told they were going to cover his video on their More or Less show. He also removed all his posts about it on other platforms and never mentioned it again. Another way John exploits the medical study loophole is by deliberately leaving out key information when he covers a study.
Goes on, both natural infection and mRNA-based vaccinations can be accompanied by transient autoimmune phenomena. Now, this is pretty significant in itself, because here we have the WHO actually admitting that SARS coronavirus 2 vaccines can cause autoimmune phenomena. This is actually a pretty big breakthrough. Let's hope this paper stays up, because it really is quite a groundbreaking piece. And I am live from the WHO website now.
So here's a screenshot of what John claimed the WHO said in that clip. Both natural infection and the mRNA-based vaccinations can be accompanied by transient autoimmune phenomena or onset of autoimmune diseases. Is that what the article actually said? No. What it said was, both natural infection and, to a much lower extent, the mRNA-based vaccinations can be accompanied by transient autoimmune phenomena or onset of autoimmune diseases. John left out 5 words, to a much lower extent. He is deliberately hiding the fact that this is much more likely to occur following natural infection. Oh, and by the way, it wasn't the WHO that said this. It came from a conference abstract that was included in a WHO database. And the database just happens to include a disclaimer, which says the following. By listing publications in this database and providing links to external sites does not mean that WHO endorses or recommends those publications or sites, or has verified the content contained within them. The database has been compiled without warranty of any kind, either expressed or implied. The responsibility for the interpretation and use of publications included in this database lies with the reader. In no event shall WHO be liable for damages arising from its use. So the WHO is making it very clear that they do not endorse anything included in the database. But YouTube's fact checkers don't know this. And they don't know that John has misrepresented what the study said anyway. So again, he can use the loophole to spread misinformation. The other loophole that John exploits is that YouTube also believes people should be able to share their own experiences, including personal experiences with vaccinations, for example. This means they make exceptions for contents in which creators describe first-hand experiences from themselves or their family. Of course, YouTube has no way of knowing if these people are telling the truth, so John can interview anyone who is claiming to have a vaccine injury without being in breach of their policy. He can even make stuff up himself.
Now, my last COVID vaccine personally was in November 2021, and I started taking blood pressure meds in March 2022. And I don't take my blood pressure that often, tend to take it every 3 months, every 6 months. But when I took it in January, it had been going up, and kept an eye on it, and it had gone up really quite all of a sudden, really. Having had pretty low blood pressure all my life, especially my diastolic blood pressure has always been really quite low. About a couple of years ago, it was like 60, 65. It was really quite good. And my diastolic blood pressure has actually gone up quite a lot, and my systolic blood pressure went up quite a bit as well. So I've had to start taking blood pressure medicines. Not ideal, but that's what I need to keep my blood pressure under control, because if you don't keep your blood pressure under control, you get all sorts of complications, as I'm sure you're well aware. The yellow card scheme, of course, is from the way that we report adverse reactions in the United Kingdom. And originally, these were literally yellow cards. They're still in the back of British National Formula, although this has gone on to paperless now, of course. So that's why they're called yellow cards. And anyone can fill them out. I filled one out for my own personal suspected vaccine injury that I suffered myself.
Now, it's a bit of a stretch to link hypertension to getting a booster vaccine, given John is an overweight male in his 60s who likes to drink alcohol. And all of these are risk factors for hypertension. But the personal story loophole allows him to do it. Here's the thing, though. He didn't develop hypertension after receiving the booster dose. Here's a snippet from an earlier video that he made.
My blood pressure strangely went up in 2020. So it had been low all my life. Then all of a sudden, 2020, I checked it, and it had gone up. Strange but true. So I assessed that I had high blood pressure. My diastolic blood pressure especially was a bit high. So the plan was I take some blood pressure medication. I take some amlodipine. The implementation is I take that and I assess my blood pressure from time to time. And yes, thankfully, the amlodipine is keeping my blood pressure under control. It's individualized. But I wouldn't want to say that everyone in the country should take high blood pressure tablets.
That was another funny look in case you missed it. So John's personal story is basically a lie, but YouTube's fact checkers don't know this. So he gets to exploit the loophole with impunity. Now, I've just given you a few examples of how John exploits YouTube's loopholes to spread misinformation. There are many, many more. But if I showed you all of them, this video would go for hours or possibly days. Meanwhile, those trying to combat his misinformation and misinformation in general are continually subjected to automatic AI deletion. The combined effect of this means that medical misinformation continues to thrive on YouTube and people continue to suffer as a consequence. Even worse, people who aren't aware of the loopholes and how they can be exploited use the fact that YouTube hasn't deleted videos as evidence that they are not misinformation. So YouTube's misinformation policy is inadvertently making misinformation seem more credible. If you'd like to look further into the data I presented, I provided links in the video's description. And please remember this video is about the science, but you shouldn't take it as medical advice. For that, you should speak to your medical practitioner. If you've got this far, thank you for listening. And if you've liked, shared, or commented on the video, double thank you, because that helps the algorithm and means that more people see the video. And of course, thank you to everyone who has bought me a coffee, or little Cindy who's just run off a treat. We really appreciate your support. We will be continuing to make videos about the science in the future. So if you'd like to join the cool kids and stay informed, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you.